think kids need to hear their parents say, you're going to want to do that. Your body is going to want that. They need to hear it because they need to know that their parents understand those feelings and those urges. And then we can talk to them about how to navigate through them. Hey, have you heard of people talk about sex education with kids being the talk? You know, oh, we had the talk with Susie today. Or we need to have the talk with Johnny soon. Maybe you've even thought this, but I just wanted to start this video out by saying that this is 100% not a talk. This is a continual conversation that we need to be having with our kids. I was pregnant as a young teenager, and because of this, I feel passionately that we need to talk to our kids about this stuff. I was in the dark about so many things surrounding this topic, and I know that information is power. Plus, this topic is in our kids' faces so much more than it has been in any other generation. So my goal in this video is to help you get totally comfortable about talking to your kids about sex and to give you neat ways to approach the topic with them and to be able to leave that door open so that your kids feel comfortable approaching you with this topic. Do you guys remember the way that you learned about this? Can you think back in your life to the first time you really learned about what sex was? I do, and because it is a very hilarious situation, I thought I would tell you the story. I have my awesome cousin to thank for this one. We were about 10 years old. We were sitting in her bedroom and we were chatting, and there was a big event happening in the family. Her brother had just gotten his girlfriend pregnant, and my cousin was explaining to me that it happened. I can still see her very dramatic face. It happened on this very bed. And when my cousin could see that I was really confused about what happened on that very bed, she explained, his penis gets hard and he sticks it in you. That was my first exposure to what sex was. Can you even imagine? I wish I could see my face. I wish I could go back to that time and just watch that whole thing unfold. I just remember sitting there and feeling my eyes grow really wide. Now, that conversation has later caused my cousin and I a lot of really deep belly laughs. But can you imagine? I wasn't really a worrier as a kid, so it didn't dwell with me too much. And it didn't really cause a lot of curiosity for me. But can you imagine if it did and I didn't have a parent to talk to about it? Oh my, we have got to open that door. Our kids need to feel comfortable enough to ask us those questions. For the format of this video, I'm just gonna walk you through the ways that I talk to my boys about this. It will also apply if you have girls. We're gonna start with the ways that I would talk to them when they're younger, and then you will see how the talk changes and develops as they get older. Trust me, you're also not gonna want to miss the way that we use a couple of different books and some clever ideas to help them make sense of these things in their mind, and some ideas that might be new to you. Also, I'm gonna give you age references of when I talk to my kids about it, but be careful because your kids are probably different with their ages, depending on their school, what they're surrounded by, their friends, that kind of a thing. So maybe take it into consideration, but then just do what you feel like applies to your kid. And I will put all of the books and the things that I reference in the comments below with links so that it will be easy for you to find them. Okay, so one thing that I think really makes it hard for kids is when adults lay everything out in one conversation and then they expect the kid to feel like that's a normal conversation and to feel open to ask all these different questions. That is not normal. What they want to feel or what they want to see is that parents can talk with ease about things surrounding this topic first, right? Like their own bodily functions, the bodily functions of the opposite sex, before totally diving into sex. So if your kids are not little anymore, even though we are starting when kids are little, then find ways to talk to them about these same things, but use age-appropriate language, and show them how comfortable you are first about just talking about those things. When my kids are little, I just look for opportunities and ways that I can bring up the subject. If they ask questions about pregnancy or babies, I give them what I think they're ready for, little pieces at a time. If they're super young, I might say things like, Mom and Dad lay together, or God helps mom and dad make babies. Or one time when we were really caught off guard, I remember telling one of ours when he was way too young to understand any of this, that dad gives mommy special powers and that's how babies are made. Oh my gosh. But little pieces at a time. And those little pieces you build on, right? Overall, no matter what you say, you need to answer them straight. If you think they're old enough to hear that a baby comes out of mom's vagina and that it's a total miracle what the body does, then say that. It always helps them to hear that you're completely comfortable talking about the body and the amazing function of it as such. And always remember, if they catch you off guard, then you can ask them a question like, tell me more about what you know so that I know where to start. And then that will give you some time to kind of catch your breath, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my kid just asked me this question. But it gives you time to like regather your strength and your thoughts so that you answer them appropriately. And also in listening to your kid will give you a better idea of really what they're ready to hear. Also, reverence for their own body parts can start super young. When my boys were little, we referred to all of their parts as their special parts. And it wasn't because we were avoid calling them what it was. We did call it what it was. It's important for you to be able to say words like penis and vagina, right? To your kids when they're tiny so that they can see that it's just normal and we talk about these things. But we called them and referred to them as their special parts so that we could also start instilling and planting a little seed that they were special, right? That your parts are special and that they belong to just you, and that your special parts, you can touch them to clean them and to use the bathroom, but don't touch them too much. We want to respect and reverence our special parts, right? And so that you can start planting those seeds when they're tiny, when they're little. We also talk to our boys about like, when your penis gets hard, that's a normal thing. That's okay, buddy. So does daddy, so does every other boy's. It's a normal thing and that happens. And it's okay. It's no big deal. And when they see you respond like that, they go, oh, that's not a big deal. No big deal, right? Also, letting them see things in nature or on Animal Planet when they're young also can like plant a little seed of just, they might ask questions, and if they can see that their parents are super willing to talk about it, then again, they can just see that that door is open. When my boys are between 7 and 9, I start to talk to them about the simple changes of their own bodies and what will happen with girls' bodies. Simple things like growing hair, voice changes, wet dreams, periods, that type of thing. And we try to laugh as much as we can around the subject whenever it's appropriate. Especially things around like voice cracks or like any funny stories that we can come up with, we try to laugh about those things. I also try to tell them little things, just planting little seeds like, hey, when a wet dream happens to you, you just bring your sheets down, throw them in the wash, no big deal, right? Just really easy. And when I talk to my boys about periods, they always respond in complete awe. And it's amazing because I get to talk to them about how a girl's body produces blood for babies, and that when a body isn't pregnant, it just releases that blood every month. And I feel like whenever you approach it like it's such an amazing thing, that they also respond with that same idea and kind of a reverence, and that it's so amazing, that our bodies are amazing, because they are. So why should we be embarrassed about their amazingness, right? And I always picture that if I had a girl, that I would tell her that when you start your period, run to me and tell me, because we're gonna book a weekend at a bed and breakfast, and we're gonna get away and we're gonna talk about all things girls and do all kinds of girl things for like a celebration, right? And celebrating that your body has an ability to do really cool things. And that thought was inspired when I read the book, The Red Tent. It's a fantastic read around the miracle of women's bodies. Usually when we talk, we're laying in bed at night. That really opens up doors of them just wanting to talk and chat. And sometimes it's just when we're driving alone in the car. You will know and you'll feel it. And you gotta just kind of pay attention and maybe create opportunities for these neat little talks and these neat little seeds to kind of be planted. And then sometimes on other occasions, I talk to my kids about hormones. And maybe for the first conversation, when I talk to them, I say, look, hormones are going to like kind of get the better of you on some days because they can make you feel like really cranky or grumpy on the turn of a dime. And just know that when that happens, you have an explanation for what's going on inside of you. And there are things that you can do about it. You can run outside and go for a bike ride for 10 or 15 minutes, and that sometimes helps lighten the way that you feel. I also teach my kids about this. It's called passion flower extract, and it is fantastic stuff. It's just a natural helper for mood. Anytime, you can take it if you're stressed, and it's great for your kids if they have hormonal things or if they're just kind of feeling grumpy. They just take a little shot of this in water, and seriously, within a few minutes, it really does help improve their mood. So it's just great for them to know that these things that they're going through are normal and they're totally, you can handle them with no issue, right? Okay, so after these little seeds have been planted, we have their dad lay by them at night and read to them this book. It's called Growing Up by Brad Wilcox. And it's a book all about maturation and sex, and it's both sided, so it's boys and girls. It talks about a lot of the little seeds that we kind of already went over. It talks about PMS and cramps for girls. It gives like little illustrations for the body. It's kind of a good overview for boys and girls for a lot of things around this topic. So when they're laying by each other at night reading this, they just kind of go through it at whatever pace works for them, and they read nightly until they're done with the book. One of the biggest keys is that they're not just reading, that they're creating an environment for talking. Most kids are not just going to blurt out their questions like the very first time that you sit down. They need to hear you read the book, and then they need to hear you talk about it and maybe ask a couple of questions that are open-ended for them to answer some things. And then as the nights go by, maybe they'll have more questions, and they have the safety of an environment to ask those questions. So in our house, we have dad read the book because I tend to be in conversations with my boys a lot. I think that helps it be both-sided for mom and dad. But you would just need to kind of see how it goes for you and your family. I think if it was a girl, I would probably have mom read it, but it's just individual based on what you and your family think is best for that kid. Okay, the next phase that I love so much is talking about this book, The Giver, with them. And this might be the one that I'm the very most excited about. You might be familiar with the book or the movie, The Giver. Let me tell you why I think it applies to sex education with our kids. This phase or this book just kind of comes up after this book, Growing Up. And you'll know when, and you'll know like when it's appropriate after you've kind of gone through some of this with them, and you can kind of see like when this would be appropriate to kind of bring to their attention. So what I do is I like to just read this book with them at night and leave time for conversation, especially after reading chapter 5. Okay, and I'll tell you why. In this book, it's about a utopian society where the people who live in this society don't really have a lot of choices. So in the book, they're required to tell their family their dreams every single morning. And one morning, the boy, Jonas, in the book, he reports to his parents that he has had this dream that includes something called a wanting. Okay, and it's a feeling that he has when he's dreaming about a girl that's in his life. The actual situation is that he describes wanting to bathe her because that was something that was normal to him because they bathed the elderly and that was just part of their job. But he, in his dreams that he's in the bathing house with his friend Fiona, and that he has this desire to bathe her, right? And he actually says, I knew that she wouldn't, and I think now that she shouldn't. But I wanted it so terribly, I could feel the wanting all the way through me. And the first time that I read this with my boys, I was kind of like alarms kind of going off in my head, and I was trying to read ahead to see like where the story was going because I wasn't really aware. But it turned out to be one of the most fantastic conversations. And it's something that we continue to refer back to because, yeah, they get it when they're young, but they get it differently as they kind of grow up. When Jonas tells his mom about the wantings, she defines them as his first stirrings and tells him he is ready for the pills. Pills that will suppress his sexual desire for the rest of his life. In the book, they don't experience the opportunity for intimate relationships at all, right? But we experience the freedom for those intimate relationships, and we have a choice to be able to have those relationships in our life. We talk all about choice. We talk about how we get to choose and the choice isn't made for us, and how absolutely glorious that is. Because these feelings instigate some of the most incredible experiences that we will have in this life. And so we talk about how those feelings are good, but they're given to us at such a young age, because Jonas is, he's their friend in the book. He's their peer. He's their age, and he's starting to get the feelings, and they're starting to get the feelings. And it kind of gives an idea or an opportunity that we can ask them, why do you think that we're given those feelings at such a young age, if we really aren't supposed to exercise them until we're older? And I think it's just such a great platform to be able to talk about how my belief is that we're given those urges and those feelings so young so that we can learn how to control them. Because can you imagine a society where people are not controlling those urges and those feelings? Because it's actually happened before. We've heard about it through war times and in different books that I've read, and it's horrible. It's horrific, and we can kind of talk to our kids about that based on what they're ready for. It's amazing. It's also an opportunity to talk to them about how hormones are released when you have sex with another person. The hormone called oxytocin is a bonding chemical, and it bonds you to another person. And so to be thoughtful about the choices that you make surrounding those unions. The other thing that I love about it is that it allows us the opportunity to talk about what's causing those feelings for our kids, right? And we can talk about, are those normal things? Are they, just hormones and seeing a cute girl and just normal things that kind of happen for boys or for girls? Or are there things that are present in their life that are kind of stirring up those feelings for them and causing them to have to deal with those feelings on a much larger scale that aren't really appropriate for us, that we should get rid of, that are in that arena? It's a really cool opportunity to kind of just talk about whatever you think your kids need to talk about around that idea. But the idea that we have a choice. It's so cool. Okay, now the next idea. I love this. This is a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Typically, it's really a business book. It's not really a book about sex education at all. But there is a chapter in this book called Sex Transmutation. And I think it is completely glorious. And I think it's so great for parents to be able to have a book to reference when they're talking about these kind of like outlandish ideas, because sometimes teenagers, they want to roll their eyes, but you can go, no, check this out. This had to do with like Thomas Jefferson and some of the really cool like leaders that were able to harness this power. Let me tell you what it is. He says, the meaning of the word transmute is, in simple language, the changing or transferring of one element or form of energy into another. Sex transmutation is simple and easily explained. It means the switching of the mind from thoughts of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature. So in other words, when we feel sexual energy, we actually have a choice in how that energy is expressed. It doesn't have to be expressed in that same category. We have the power to redirect that energy. And I think that is crucial for teenagers to understand, because there's sometimes a lot of like pressure maybe for their own selves that they think they need to express that energy that way, or maybe they feel pressure from the opposite sex or from people around them. And we need to help instill in them that this is their choice, that they don't have to choose what their body is feeling. So in other words, if they start to feel that feeling, then we can decide ahead of time and talk to them about different options that they have to redirect that energy. Like maybe they want to get good at something. Maybe it's something with sports. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's, whatever they want, whatever they're excited to do, because sometimes it's hard to pull away from something like that to do something they're not excited to do, like homework. But if we can get the idea planted that they have the opportunity to redirect that energy into, practicing their shots on goal, or pouring their heart out into music, or whatever it is, we can help them see that they have a choice and that they can choose ahead of time, and that energy, it's a real thing to transmute or transfer that energy into something else. So cool. Another great thing to point out about this idea is that Napoleon Hill is not bringing up this idea for teenagers to engage in abstinence. That's not his purpose. His purpose is to talk to us about how if we all can harness that power, that we can become geniuses. And he also gives a lot of references of famous people who have harnessed that power and how it has helped them. It is so cool. Most of all, I think it's so important to talk to our kids, like I said before, about how your body is going to want to do this. That's a natural and normal feeling. And it's actually a really great source by way that that comes to you, because it's a lot of our reproductive powers and a lot of that. But you have to remember that you have a choice, and that it's just totally normal and natural for your body to respond with that wanting, but that it's up to you to decide ahead of time, what you are going to do and what you want that to look like in your life. And it's so important for that to be a conversation that also involves their parents. My cousin, the one I talked to you about earlier, who actually initiated my sex education. Yeah, she's so awesome. And we've actually had the most amazing laughs about that situation. But last summer, she took us tubing. And this is an example that I like to use with my boys. So maybe you can paint this picture for your kids as well. She was giving us some instruction of what would happen when we got to the water's edge. She said, you're gonna get there and you're gonna feel that the water is cold, and your body is going to say, no, 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 no. And your mind needs to say, yes, 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 yes. Because you need to get in the tube, and we all need to stay together on the river, right? Because once you sit down and the river starts taking us all away, we gotta all get in at the same time and stay together. And that's what she was trying to illustrate. But we use that example as sometimes your body tells you one thing and your mind has to tell yourself something different. It's so valuable, especially when we talk about how your body's gonna wanna do this, but it doesn't mean that you have to. And lastly, I was talking to my boys and I was asking them, what do you guys think are some really important things that parents need to know to talk to their kids about sex and to make that conversation easy? And their main responses were really that they needed to spend time with their kids and they needed to have a good relationship with them so that when they talk to them, it doesn't feel weird. So spend time with them outside of these kinds of conversations, doing things with them that they love. Spend time getting to know them. Like I said before, to me, talking to them at night about everything under the sun is when a time that they really open up. Another time that I love when my kids really open up is if I will just sit down and it's just the two of us and I'm giving them a head massage. Any time of the day, they seriously just get so relaxed and they are so willing to talk to you. Whatever you can do to help you stay connected to your teen and instigate conversations around this topic and whatever other topic so that they feel open and that they can talk to you is time well spent. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. I hope it helps you talk to your teenagers and to really discuss sex education and to make that an ongoing conversation with them. If you want to find that you have more power than you think you do with your health, your mindset, and your relationships, then you can check out some of my other videos. I'll see you guys soon.